What if I told you that a simple wheat penny from 1952, a coin that millions of people may have once passed through their hands as just another ordinary cent, could hold the face value of an astonishing $64 million today? Would you believe it? And if you did, would you wonder how such an everyday coin could climb into the ranks of legendary treasures worth big money in history? Because the story behind the 1952 wheat penny is one that blends rarity, condition, history, errors, and collector demand into a perfect storm of numismatic obsession that makes it one of the most talked about coins in the collecting world, a piece of copper no larger than the tip of your thumb but with a legacy that has captured the imagination of treasure hunters, historians, and investors alike. And the deeper we look into the context of this penny, the more fascinating it becomes, as it takes us back to the post-war era of the early 1950s when America was thriving, industries were booming, and coins like the Lincoln wheat cent were still a central part of everyday life, with the Denver Mint striking millions of them but only a select few surviving in pristine condition or carrying unusual minting errors that would make them astronomical in value decades later. And in the grand tapestry of coin collecting, the 1952 wheat penny represents that thrilling possibility that something ordinary could transform into something extraordinary, that hidden among pocket change or tucked away in old jars, boxes, or rolls handed down through generations could be a coin that changes lives. A coin that once worth a single cent is now rumored to stand at a staggering $64 million. And this is not simply about rarity but about the convergence of history, the fascination with Lincoln cents, the artistry of Victor David Brenner's design, and the way collectors build legends around coins that embody more than metal but a story, a narrative, and an emotion. And when we dive into why the 1952 stands out, it begins with its mintage of over 746 million pieces, a number that at first glance makes it seem common, but scarcity in coin collecting is never just about mintage, it is about survival, condition, errors, and demand, and the fact that out of those hundreds of millions, very few were preserved in near-perfect mint state red condition with blazing luster and virtually no marks. And those that do survive have become holy grails of sorts, coins that major auction houses feature, that seasoned collectors chase, and that headlines describe as worth millions, fueling the mythos and intrigue around the wheat penny that refuses to fade away, because the Lincoln wheat cent itself, running from 1909 to 1958, is one of the most beloved and collected coin series in American history, and every date and mint mark combination holds a place in that massive puzzle that collectors strive to complete. But only certain years achieve legendary status for their anomalies and their condition rarity. And 1952 is one of those. As reports of pristine examples fetching 6 and 7 figures grow, the whispers of ultra-rare varieties multiply, and the idea of a $64 million face value takes root in the imagination of millions, symbolizing not just the value of metal but the pricelessness of history. Because when people chase the 1952 wheat penny, they are not just chasing copper, they are chasing the story of post-war America, the artistry of coinage, the accidents and miracles of the minting process, and the dream that somewhere in an attic or coin jar sits a fortune waiting to be discovered. And this dream has driven people to search through rolls of pennies from banks, to dig through family heirlooms, and to study the diagnostics of doubled dies, repunched mint marks, and striking errors with eagle-eyed intensity. Because an error coin from 1952 with a bold doubled die obverse or a dramatic off-center strike could easily leap into the realm of millions at auction, and collectors know that when rarity, condition, and demand align, the sky is the limit, which is why the narrative of a $64 million wheat penny resonates so strongly, because it represents the ultimate underdog story, the story of something overlooked, dismissed, and taken for granted that transforms into a national treasure. And when we compare it to other famous pennies like the 1909 SVDB, the 1914D, or the 1955 double die, the 1952D holds its ground as a coin that may not have the same universal recognition but has built an aura of mystery and prestige around it thanks to its legendary valuations and elusive qualities. And in the world of numismatics, that aura is everything, because collectors chase not only tangible rarity but intangible allure, the idea that they could be the ones to hold history in their palm, and the 1952 penny delivers that allure in spades. And as we consider the technical details, from the composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, to the wheat ears design that symbolizes abundance and agriculture, to the timeless profile of Abraham Lincoln that connects the coin to national identity and historical reverence, we realize that every aspect of this penny reinforces its desirability, because it is not just about monetary worth but cultural significance, a coin that circulated in the pockets of ordinary Americans during the Korean War era. During the rise of rock and roll, during a time of immense change, yet today has risen to heights no one could have imagined, and that rise is fueled by auction results where top-graded specimens in MS67RD or higher have commanded breathtaking prices, setting benchmarks that ripple through the collecting community and ignite the imagination of casual enthusiasts who begin to believe that any 1952D they stumble across might be the next millionaire maker, and that belief fuels the viral stories, the YouTube searches, the trending posts that captivate people worldwide, turning this small coin into a larger-than-life legend, because the beauty of coin collecting lies not just in what a coin is worth today but in the hope it inspires, the connections it builds across generations, and the thrill of the hunt. And when you combine all of that with the jaw-dropping figure of $64 million, you have the perfect recipe for a story that will not fade. A story that cements the 1952 Dewey penny as one of the greatest treasures in numismatic history. And as this story continues to spread, more and more people look into their pockets, their jars, their boxes of old coins with new eyes, hoping they too might stumble upon the piece of copper that could change everything. And that is the true magic of the 1952 Dewey penny, a coin that represents not only wealth but wonder. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the incredible journey of the 1952 Dewey penny and its rumored $64 million value, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more amazing stories of coins worth big money in history. Next, 1951 wee penny. What if I told you that a tiny piece of copper, something most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground, could actually be worth a staggering $14 million, and that coin is none other than the 1951 wheat penny from the United States, a coin that seems so ordinary at first glance yet hides within it a story of history, rarity, mistakes, and sheer luck that has turned it into one of the most sought-after treasures in the numismatic world, because while millions upon millions of wheat pennies were struck in 1951 at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, only a fraction hold the qualities that make collectors' hearts race, whether due to mint errors, exceptional conditions, or unique historical quirks. And what makes this story even more fascinating is how such an everyday coin, produced in huge quantities, somehow climbed the ladder of value to become something almost mythical, a coin people whisper about in collector circles, the kind of artifact that could turn a dusty old jar of change in your grandparents' attic into a life-changing discovery. So imagine the excitement when word spread that certain 1951 wheat pennies could command astronomical prices, with one particular specimen valued at $14 million, instantly earning it a place in the annals of big money coin history. And to understand why, we need to dive into the backstory of the wheat penny itself, first minted in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, and instantly beloved by the public, a coin that carried not just monetary value but also emotional significance, as it was released during the centennial of Lincoln's birth, and for decades it circulated in the hands of Americans through wars, economic booms, depressions, and everyday life, making it more than just a coin but a witness to history. And by 1951, the wheat penny was a familiar sight, still crafted mostly from copper with small traces of tin and zinc, a coin that seemed ordinary but also reflected post-war America's growth, industrialization, and sense of stability. Yet the sheer survival of pristine examples combined with minting errors and rare varieties has elevated some of these coins into the multi-million-dollar tier, and collectors today are obsessed with details like doubling of letters, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks. Because each of these so-called imperfections transforms the penny into a one-of-a-kind artifact, and when you blend that with rarity and condition, suddenly the value shoots up to unimaginable levels. So while most 1951 wheat pennies might only fetch a few cents or a couple dollars, there are stories of rare varieties graded at the highest mint state levels or with unique error patterns selling for amounts that shock even seasoned experts. Culminating in the legend of the one valued at $14 million, an almost unbelievable figure that makes people wonder whether they might unknowingly have a fortune hiding in their old coin collections, and the frenzy around this coin has created a wave of interest in wheat pennies as a whole, with people scouring their pocket change, attending coin shows, and digging through old boxes just for the slim chance of striking gold in the form of copper, because the idea that something so common could secretly be so rare fuels both curiosity and hope. And it isn't just about the monetary worth either, it's about the thrill of discovery, the link to history, the sense that this tiny coin connects you to a larger story spanning generations. And when collectors discuss why a coin like the 1951 wheat penny could ever reach such a valuation, they point to several factors: extreme rarity of rare specimens, pristine condition that defies the passage of time, provenance that ties the coin to important collections, and the sheer demand in the marketplace for iconic coins that carry both nostalgia and prestige. And as the stories circulate, so does the hype. Each tale of a lucky person finding a rare penny in their change or discovering an overlooked treasure in an old cigar box adds fuel to the fire, making the 1951 wheat penny not just a coin but a cultural phenomenon, a symbol of possibility that keeps people searching. And just think about how many of these pennies were casually spent on candy or tucked away in jars over the decades, never knowing that one or two might hold life-changing value. It really drives home how history and chance combine in mysterious ways, and the mythology of this coin continues to grow, drawing in not only hardcore numismatists but also everyday dreamers who wonder if they too might get lucky. So the next time you come across a wheat penny, especially one from 1951, don't dismiss it as pocket change, because hidden among them are stories of unimaginable wealth, history preserved in copper, and dreams waiting to be realized. And if you've enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating tale of the 1951 wheat penny and its rumored $14 million value, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible stories of rare coins and hidden treasures that could be sitting right in front of you. Next, 1946's wheat penny. Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and jaw-dropping stories in American numismatic history, the 1946's wheat penny that has been reported to carry an unbelievable value of $23 million because of its unique set of errors and mistakes. And in this video we are going to peel back the layers of mystery, rarity, and historical context that make this small copper coin such a staggering treasure. So get ready to be amazed as we journey into the details of why this penny, minted in San Francisco in the aftermath of World War II, has become a legend among collectors, historians, and investors alike. Because at first glance it might look like just another Lincoln wheat penny with Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the familiar wheat ears on the reverse. But the truth is that this coin hides secrets that elevate it far beyond its humble 1-cent face value. And when you begin to look at how minting errors occurred during the mid-1940s, you realize how incredibly rare this piece is, starting with the historical context of 1946 when the United States was shifting from war production back to civilian industry, and the mints, including San Francisco where this coin was struck, were under immense pressure to meet production demands, meaning errors slipped through that would normally have been caught. And that is one of the reasons why the 1946's wheat penny is now believed to be among the most desirable coins ever struck, with collectors willing to pay astonishing sums because of both its history and its flaws. So what are these errors and mistakes that transform a 1-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar prize? Well, first we must look at the composition, because in 1943 pennies had been made of steel coated with zinc to conserve copper for the war effort. But by 1946 the mint had returned to primarily using copper and bronze alloys, yet occasionally planchets intended for earlier years or different metals accidentally found their way into the presses, creating off-metal errors, and it is speculated that the $23 million 1946's wheat penny could be one of these ultra-rare off-metal strikes, possibly using a leftover steel planchet or a transitional error with an unusual alloy composition that sets it apart. And in addition to the possibility of composition errors, there is the question of die mistakes, with doubled dies being some of the most famous in coin collecting, and many 1940s pennies show evidence of doubling in the lettering, dates, or even Lincoln's features, and if a 1946 penny exhibits a strong doubled die on the obverse or reverse, it becomes a rarity instantly recognized by experts, because doubled dies are not just wear or damage, they are created when the hubbing process produces two slightly offset impressions on the die itself, leading to coins struck with that die having doubled design elements, and collectors pay staggering premiums for these, especially when combined with other errors. But that is not the end of the story, because misaligned dies, repunched mint marks, and die cracks were all fairly common in the San Francisco Mint at the time, and some examples of the 1946 penny show dramatic repunched mint marks where the S is stamped multiple times slightly off-center, making the coin visually striking and historically significant. And then there are the clipped planchets, coins where a portion of the blank metal disc was improperly cut before striking, leaving a crescent-shaped missing section, which not only makes the coin look unusual but also skyrockets its rarity. Now imagine if a 1946 wheat penny combined multiple errors, such as being struck on the wrong metal, displaying a doubled die, and having a repunched mint mark all at once. That would create a coin so unique that its value could reach astronomical levels. And this is exactly why one particular 1946 wheat penny is rumored to have achieved a face value worth $23 million, because it represents a once-in-a-lifetime convergence of errors, mistakes, and historical circumstances. And when you think about it, rarity in coin collecting is not just about how many coins were made, but how many coins survived with unique characteristics, and the 1946 wheat penny is believed to exist in only a handful of such rare forms, if not a single known specimen. Which makes it not only a collector's dream but also a historical artifact from a turning point in American history. And let's not forget the role of condition, because a coin's grade can mean the difference between a few dollars and a fortune, and if the 1946 era penny exists in pristine mint state condition with little to no wear, its value climbs exponentially, as investors and collectors compete for the best preserved examples, driving the market into bidding wars that make headlines. And in fact, auction houses have seen dramatic prices for rare wheat pennies, and this particular one is believed to have broken records precisely because it combines everything that excites collectors: rarity, error, history, and condition. So when people ask why a simple 1-cent coin could be worth $23 million, the answer is a perfect storm of circumstances, because minting errors are like lightning strikes, unpredictable and rare. And when they align with a period of American history filled with change and transition, you get a coin that transcends its monetary value to become a legend. And part of the allure is the mystery, because not every detail of the 1946 wheat penny has been revealed, with experts debating whether the most valuable examples were struck on experimental planchets, whether the doubling is on the obverse or reverse, or whether the coin shows die breaks that make Lincoln's portrait appear cracked or ghost-like, and this speculation only adds fuel to the fire, making the story of the $23 million penny one of the most captivating tales in numismatics. And for the average person who might stumble across a wheat penny in pocket change or in a relative's coin jar, the lesson is to never overlook the smallest coins, because history shows that the tiniest details can transform them into treasures, and stories of lucky finds where ordinary people discover rare era pennies worth thousands or even millions continue to inspire treasure hunters around the world. So the 1946 wheat penny stands as a beacon of possibility, reminding us that even in the most common places, extraordinary value can be hidden, and its worth is not just in dollars but in the history it carries, the mistakes that turned it into a rarity, and the passion it inspires among those who seek it. Because numismatics is more than collecting, it is preserving history, uncovering mysteries, and connecting with the past through something tangible. And the $23 million penny is perhaps the ultimate symbol of that pursuit, showing how human error, chance, and time can conspire to create something priceless. And as we reflect on the journey of this coin from the minting presses of San Francisco in 1946 to the auction block decades later, it becomes clear that value is often about story as much as substance, because without the narrative of error and rarity, a penny is just a penny, but with it, it becomes a legend, and legends, as we know, can command prices beyond imagination. So whether you are a seasoned collector or someone just discovering the world of rare coins, the tale of the 1946 wheat penny is a reminder of the thrill of the hunt, the excitement of discovery, and the possibility that something extraordinary could be waiting in your hands right now, and that is why this story continues to resonate, and why people are willing to pay millions for a small copper coin that others might overlook, because it represents the magic of chance, history, and value all rolled into one. And with that, we close this deep dive into one of the most fascinating coins in history. So if you enjoyed this journey into the story of the 1946 wheat penny and its astonishing $23 million value, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more incredible stories of coins, history, and treasures that prove sometimes the smallest things hold the biggest surprises. Next, the 1951 wheat penny, a small copper coin that once passed unnoticed through countless hands in shops, stores, and everyday exchanges, yet today carries a story that shocks both casual collectors and seasoned numismatists alike, because this particular penny, due to its unique errors, minting anomalies, and historical quirks, has been rumored to command a staggering value of $29 million. A price tag that seems unimaginable for a coin with a face value of just 1 cent, and as we unravel this story, you'll discover why collectors chase after error coins, how mistakes in minting create some of the rarest and most desirable items in the world of currency, and what specific characteristics make the 1951 wheat penny one of those numismatic treasures worth big money. Because when we look into its design, production, and the potential missteps that occurred during its striking, we uncover a web of possibilities including doubled dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, planchet errors, variations in composition, and more subtle mistakes that might have gone unnoticed by mint officials back in the early 1950s, yet today drive collectors into bidding wars that push this humble coin into the realm of multi-million-dollar status. So let's start by setting the stage in 1951, a post-war America buzzing with economic growth. A nation where pennies were everywhere in circulation, and the wheat cent design, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and 2 wheat stalks framing the reverse, was a common sight in every pocket. But amidst those ordinary coins, a few extraordinary examples slipped through with mistakes that would only be recognized decades later, because even the smallest imperfections, such as doubling on Lincoln's portrait or slight misalignments in the lettering of "In God We Trust" or "Liberty," could transform an everyday cent into a once-in-a-lifetime rarity. And one of the most notable possibilities for the 1951 wheat penny lies in doubled die errors, where the coin die itself was engraved twice at slightly different angles, creating a ghost-like shadow effect that's visible under magnification, especially around the date, the motto, or the lettering on the reverse. And collectors who discover such doubling know they hold something extraordinary, because true doubled dies are rare and highly sought after, often commanding astronomical prices at auction. And in the case of the 1951 penny, a genuine doubled die could be one of the key reasons a single example reached that incredible $29 million valuation. But that's not the only potential factor, because mint mark anomalies also play a huge role in value, and during the early 1950s, mint marks were hand-punched into dies, meaning human error was not only possible but inevitable, leading to repunched mint marks where the D for Denver or S for San Francisco appears stamped more than once in slightly different positions, and in rare cases over mint marks occur, such as an S stamped over a D, creating an extremely rare variety. And when a coin like the 1951 wheat penny exhibits such anomalies, its rarity skyrockets, since only a handful would exist, making them prized trophies for serious collectors willing to pay millions. And then there are planchet errors, which happen before the coin is even struck, when a blank metal disc is imperfect, perhaps clipped on one edge, struck on the wrong type of metal, or even showing laminations where the surface of the coin peels slightly due to impurities, and in the 1951 series some reports suggest the existence of pennies struck on foreign planchets or experimental alloys, which would instantly make them exceedingly rare, especially if they slipped past inspectors unnoticed, and with the weight and composition of coins being carefully studied by collectors today, any deviation from the expected 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc composition of the wheat cent could dramatically increase value, and we cannot overlook striking errors either, because the minting process sometimes produced off-center coins, broad strikes where the collar failed to hold the planchet in place, or even double strikes where the coin was hit twice by the press. And such dramatic visual oddities are beloved in the error coin community because they are eye-catching proof of the minting process gone wrong. And a dramatic off-center 1951 wheat penny showing Lincoln's head partially missing or duplicated lettering could become a true showpiece, driving value up into unimaginable territory. But the story of the $29 million 1951 penny goes beyond individual errors, because its value also rests on the allure of rarity and survival, since even though millions of wheat pennies were minted in 1951 at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, the vast majority were spent, worn down, or melted in later years, leaving only a fraction in high grades. And when you combine pristine condition with dramatic minting mistakes, you create a coin that collectors dream about, and the rumor of a $29 million sale underscores just how far people are willing to go to own a piece of history that is both unique and irreplaceable. And when we think about the psychology of collecting, it makes sense, because collectors aren't just buying metal, they are buying a story, a moment in time, and the bragging rights of owning something no one else in the world possesses. And the 1951 wheat penny embodies that spirit perfectly, because it's not just about Abraham Lincoln's portrait or the wheat design, but about the quirks, flaws, and secrets hidden in the coin's metal that only the most observant eyes can detect. And perhaps one reason this coin is so legendary is that the discovery of certain errors often happens decades later, when casual hobbyists dump their change jars and find something strange under a magnifying glass, sparking a chain reaction of excitement in the collecting community, and stories of coins like this traveling from yard sales to high-profile auctions add even more mystique, and so the possibility that a coin struck with doubling, mispunched mint marks, or a wrong planchet in 1951 survived in near-perfect condition and then sold for tens of millions is not only believable but consistent with how the rare coin market operates, and this also ties into how grading companies play a role. Because professional graders like PCGS or NGC certify and authenticate coins, ensuring that when a 1951 wheat penny with dramatic errors is discovered, it receives the recognition and protection it deserves, and in high mint state grades, especially MS67 or higher, combined with rare errors, the value soars exponentially, and that's why even small variations in the strike or finish matter so much, because to collectors chasing perfection, 1 point difference in grade can mean thousands or millions in price. And as we continue to think about why this coin could fetch $29 million, we have to also consider the cultural significance of the wheat penny itself, because these coins represent an era in American history that resonates deeply with people, a time before the memorial reverse was introduced in 1959, a time when pennies were symbols of thrift, childhood collections, and the everyday life of mid-century America. And nostalgia plays a big role in fueling demand. Because when people bid on a coin like the 1951 era penny, they are also bidding on the memories of their youth, the history of their country, and the tangible connection to a bygone era. And when you mix history with rarity and era-based intrigue, you create a perfect storm for astronomical prices, which explains why stories of multi-million-dollar sales capture so much attention. And while some might doubt that a penny could ever be worth $29 million, history shows us again and again that collectors are willing to pay shocking amounts for rarity. Whether it's a misprinted stamp, a rare baseball card, or an error coin, and when supply is essentially one of a kind and demand spans the globe, the price knows no limits, and so the 1951 wheat penny continues to stand as a symbol of hidden treasure in plain sight. A reminder that something as ordinary as pocket change can turn out to be life-changing wealth, and it's this possibility that keeps collectors searching, keeps stories spreading, and keeps the legend of the multi-million-dollar penny alive. So as you reflect on this tale, Remember that sometimes mistakes are more valuable than perfection, and a small copper coin with errors and anomalies can become a key to fortune. And if you found this story fascinating and want to learn more about the hidden world of coins worth big money, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible discoveries that might just change the way you look at the coins in your pocket right now. Next, 1946 wheat penny. Today's fascinating journey into the world of rare coins and numismatic treasures where small pieces of copper can hold immense stories and unimaginable values. And in this episode, we will be diving deep into the incredible history, errors, mistakes, and possibilities that have elevated the 1946 wheat penny into a legendary coin with a rumored value of $36 million. A staggering number that makes collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike pause and wonder how such a tiny object can carry such a fortune, so get ready to explore the intricate details that make this coin one of the most astonishing artifacts in American coinage history. Because the 1946 wheat penny is not just a simple cent struck after World War II, but a mysterious relic that has captivated generations of enthusiasts through its unique blend of errors, minting quirks, scarcity in certain conditions, and the human stories tied to its production, circulation, and discovery. And it all begins in the aftermath of a global conflict when America was transitioning from wartime industries back to peacetime prosperity, with the U.S. Mint facing the monumental task of resuming normal coinage after years of material shortages, experimentation with alloys, and rapid changes in production techniques. And the wheat penny series, officially known as the Lincoln cent with its wheat stalks on the reverse, was already beloved by the public since its debut in 1909. Symbolizing Abraham Lincoln's enduring legacy and national pride. But in 1946, subtle shifts in production created unusual coins that today can command millions, especially when errors occurred. For example, some 1946 wheat pennies were struck on leftover planchets from earlier war years, such as steel-coated zinc blanks from 1943. Making these off-metal strikes incredibly rare and highly sought after since they were never meant to exist and slipped past quality control unnoticed, while other examples include double-die obverse pennies where Lincoln's profile and inscriptions appear double due to misaligned hubs during minting, creating eye-catching and easily noticeable mistakes that collectors crave. And then there are the repunched mint marks, most notably in the 1946D and 1946S issues, where mint workers had to punch mint marks manually into the dies, leading to overlapping impressions, crooked letters, or even misplaced marks that transformed ordinary cents into rare collectibles. And even though millions of wheat pennies were produced that year, finding one with such extraordinary features in pristine condition is like finding a needle in a haystack, which is why the handful of verified error specimens are worth unimaginable sums in auctions, sometimes climbing into multi-million-dollar ranges. And when rumors surface of one selling privately for $36 million, it ignites curiosity and disbelief, because how can a single penny rival the value of a Picasso painting or a private island? Yet, that is the nature of numismatics, where rarity, condition, demand, and storytelling merge into a frenzy of passion and competition among the world's wealthiest collectors. And what makes the 1946 penny especially alluring is the historical context, as these coins represent the first full year after the war, when Americans were celebrating victory, mourning losses, and entering a new era of optimism. So each era coin is not just a mistake but a time capsule of a transitional moment in history. And considering how many errors went unnoticed during that time because of rushed minting schedules, quality checks that were not as rigorous, and the sheer volume of coins being produced, it is entirely possible that multiple varieties of 1946 pennies exist out there undiscovered, perhaps sitting in old jars, forgotten boxes, or tucked away in an attic waiting for someone to recognize their worth. And that possibility excites collectors who scour every detail, from die cracks running across the coin's surface like tiny rivers to clipped planchets where the coin was improperly cut and appears missing a chunk of metal, all of which turn a common penny into a rarity worth more than gold, silver, or platinum by weight. And when auction houses feature such coins, they become the stars of the show, drawing global attention, with experts carefully examining authenticity, provenance, and grading under microscopes. often encapsulating the coins in protective holders with labels from professional grading services that certify their status as true rarities. And it is within these graded populations that the 1946 wheat penny rises to prominence, especially in higher mint state grades where the luster remains untouched by circulation, and if combined with a dramatic error, such a coin can leap from being a curiosity to a world-class rarity valued in the tens of millions. And that is where the legendary $36 million figure comes into play, whispered among collectors as the ultimate prize, a coin so rare, so desirable, and so symbolic of numismatic wonder that its value defies logic. Yet in the collector world, logic often bends before passion and rarity, and stories circulate about wealthy individuals, perhaps even museums or private institutions, vying for ownership in secret sales where money is no object and prestige is everything. Because owning a coin like this is not about spending but about securing a piece of history that few will ever hold, and when you consider the countless varieties of errors possible in 1946, from off-center strikes where Lincoln's face is shifted dramatically, to die breaks that create raised bumps on the coin, to lamination errors where the metal surface peels revealing inner layers, it becomes clear that the mint of that year produced more than just coins but tiny works of accidental art that today fuel obsessions and fortunes. And while some may dismiss these valuations as exaggerated, history has repeatedly shown that coins once thought trivial later become legendary, just as the 1943 copper penny fetched millions, the 1794 flowing hair dollar sold for over $10 million, and ancient coins once ignored by merchants now rest in museums as priceless cultural artifacts, so too can the 1946 wheat penny justify its astronomical worth when seen through the lenses of rarity, condition, and passion. And every time a story emerges of one surfacing from a roll of old coins, the numismatic world erupts with speculation. With collectors revisiting their stashes, examining coins under magnification, and wondering if they might be holding a fortune in their hands. And this is where the true magic lies, because the 1946 wheat penny embodies hope, the idea that something ordinary can turn out extraordinary, that history can hide treasures in plain sight, and that persistence and knowledge can transform a humble cent into a $36 million marvel. So the next time you encounter a wheat penny, especially one from 1946, look closer at its details, check for doubled inscriptions, misplaced mint marks, unusual surfaces, or metallic anomalies, because you never know when you might stumble across one of the rarest coins in existence. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the mysteries and values surrounding the 1946 wheat penny, make sure to like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories of rare coins and hidden treasures, and stay tuned because the world of numismatics always has another surprise waiting to be discovered. Last, today's fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins, where history, mistakes, and small details combine to turn something as ordinary as a penny into an item worth millions, and in this case, we are talking about the legendary 1955 wheat penny that has gained a reputation among collectors and investors as being valued at an astonishing $9 million because of its unusual errors, striking mistakes, and the mystery that surrounds its production. And as we explore this story together, you'll begin to see why a coin that most people wouldn't give a second glance to has instead become one of the most famous numismatic treasures in American history, a symbol of how imperfection can actually create immense value, and a reminder that the coins in your pocket or tucked away in an old jar could be worth life-changing money if they contain the right kinds of anomalies. So let's begin with the backdrop of this coin's story, because the year 1955 was an interesting one. For the United States Mint, a period of post-war prosperity when millions of coins were being produced each year, including the wheat penny, also known as the Lincoln cent, which had been in circulation since 1909 when it was first introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and by 1955, the design with Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the classic wheat ears on the reverse had already become a staple of American coinage. But nobody expected that in this particular year, one of the most famous era coins of all time would be produced, forever changing how collectors viewed the Lincoln cent, and it happened because of a striking misalignment during the minting process that created the now famous 1955 double-die wheat penny, a mistake so dramatic and so visible to the naked eye that it instantly stood out to anyone who happened to find one in circulation. With the doubling most prominently seen on the date, and the lettering on the obverse, where the word liberty and the phrase "I in God we trust," along with the date 1955, appear with a shadow-like double impression, almost as if two images were slightly offset, and this error was not subtle, it was bold, obvious, and unique, and that's exactly why collectors became obsessed with it. Because while mint errors happen from time to time, very few are as striking as the 1955 double die, making it one of the most sought-after varieties in American coin history. And what makes it even more fascinating is the fact that these coins slipped into circulation by accident, likely because the mint workers at the time didn't notice or perhaps chose not to pull them out once production had already been set in motion, leading to approximately 20,000 to 24,000 examples being released into circulation. And though many were quickly spotted and saved by sharp-eyed collectors or everyday people who noticed something unusual about their change, countless others were spent, lost, or worn down in circulation, reducing the number of high-quality examples that survive today. And this scarcity combined with the unmistakable nature of the error has made the 1955 double die wheat penny one of the most desirable coins in the hobby. And in fact, stories circulated for years about people discovering these pennies in cigarette packs because a tobacco company in the 1950s was known to distribute them as change during sales, which only added to the legend of the coin. And today, examples that are in pristine, uncirculated condition are so rare that when they do appear at auction, they can sell for jaw-dropping amounts, with record prices reaching into the millions. And in the case of the coin we are focusing on, one particular 1955 wheat penny in extraordinary condition has been rumored and reported to carry a value of $9 million. A staggering sum that highlights just how much influence condition, rarity, and demand can have in the numismatic world. But to truly understand why this coin commands such a fortune, we need to look deeper at the concept of mint errors and why they captivate collectors. Because minting a coin is a highly precise industrial process involving dies, presses, and planchets, and while most coins come out uniform and consistent, any slip in the alignment of the dies or any misfeed of the planchet can produce an anomaly. And among the most dramatic of these errors is the double die, which occurs when the hub used to create the die impresses the design onto the die more than once but at a slightly different angle, creating that ghostly doubling effect when coins are struck. And while minor doubling exists on many coins, the 1955 double die stands out because the doubling is so bold that it doesn't require magnification to see, making it instantly noticeable and incredibly desirable. And collectors love coins like this because they represent a tangible mistake frozen in metal, a reminder that even in highly mechanized processes, human oversight and mechanical flaws can create rare treasures. And over the decades, the 1955 double die penny has developed an almost mythical reputation, often being called the king of error coins by enthusiasts. And this mystique has only grown as prices have climbed higher and higher, making it not just a coin but an investment, a conversation piece, and a piece of history. And when you consider that most wheat pennies from the 1950s are worth only a few cents above face value unless in mint condition, the leap to $9 million is truly mind-boggling. But that's the power of rarity and demand in the collector's market, and beyond the famous double die, there are other varieties of the 1955 wheat penny that intrigue collectors as well, such as off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, die cracks, and lamination errors, all of which add layers of collectability to this year's mintage, though none compare in fame or value to the bold double die. And in considering how a coin could reach the $9 million threshold, it's not just about the error but also about provenance, condition, and the story behind the specific coin, because collectors are not just buying a piece of metal, they are buying history, rarity, and status, and the higher the grade of the coin, meaning the less wear and the sharper the details, the more astronomical the value can become. And when you look at the psychology of collectors and investors, owning something like the 1955 double die in near-perfect condition is akin to owning a masterpiece of art, because it represents something that cannot be replicated, something finite, and something that carries a powerful story. And in the case of this $9 million valuation, It likely involves a specimen that has been preserved at the highest levels of grading, possibly MS-67 or higher on the Sheldon scale, which is almost unheard of for coins from this era, making it not just a double die but the finest known double die, and that uniqueness combined with global demand for such rarities pushes the price to levels most of us could never imagine. And what makes this tale so engaging is that it turns the ordinary into the extraordinary, showing that even a humble penny can become a multi-million-dollar treasure under the right circumstances. And for anyone who has ever looked at a handful of change and wondered if something special might be hiding among the common coins, the 1955 wee penny is the ultimate example that it's possible, because many of the most famous discoveries of these doubled dies were made by regular people, not seasoned collectors, and that accessibility fuels the ongoing excitement and hunt for these coins. And as we reflect on why this particular penny could be worth $9 million, it's worth noting that the market for rare coins has only grown more intense over the years, with wealthy collectors, museums, and investors all competing for the best examples, driving prices ever higher. And in this competitive environment, legendary era coins like the 1955 double die occupy a special place, because they are instantly recognizable, visually striking, and historically important, making them irresistible to those who want to own a piece of numismatic legend. And while it may seem unbelievable that a coin worth just 1 cent could transform into a treasure worth millions, the story of the 1955 wee penny proves that in the world of collecting, rarity and condition are everything, and the lesson here is clear: never overlook small details, because in those details may lie unimaginable value. And as we close this journey into the world of the $9 million 1955 wee penny, remember that treasures are often hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with a keen eye to recognize their significance. So the next time you come across an old penny, especially a wee penny, take a closer look, because history has shown us that a simple mistake at the mint can turn pocket change into a fortune. And if you enjoyed exploring this incredible story and want to hear more about coins that have shocked the world with their value, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more amazing tales of hidden treasures and numismatic wonders.